The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
Station atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies.
It's Friday, January 5th, Saturday, January 6th, if you're on the East Coast and across the pond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am flying high after Canada's junior hockey team just won the gold medal at the World Juniors over Team Sweden tonight, 3-1. I'm a proud Canadian tonight. I'm waving my flag as I am your host, Dave Scott, live from the Great White North in the Caribou region on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, stationed at SOR headquarters. We say hello to everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live at spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. We're all over social media. You can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I am at Dave Scott SOR. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live, tune us in on TuneIn, download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, we have a GoFundMe account going on right now. We are trying to raise funds to improve our broadcast system, rebuild the studio. Go to GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. We're halfway to our goal. We could definitely use your help. Now, if you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, you can go to our Spaced Out Radio store, pick up a t-shirt or something else. Read the Encounter Online, dealing with everything paranormal, strange, and odd. Check out my latest blog there as well. We also got great videos from Tim Doyle's UFO Seekers and Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV. It's the first Friday of 2018, and it means it's time to get back on the alien saddle and take a ride with R. Keith Andrews, our resident ET expert. Keith has been a lifelong ET contactee. It's a life he wouldn't wish upon many because it's been difficult to have, and more so, difficult to fully comprehend. Now, this is the first time we're getting a chance to talk with Keith tonight since the soft disclosure was announced last month by the Pentagon through the New York Times story. We're going to get Keith's take on whether or not this is truly disclosure or some sort of smokescreen for something bigger upon the alien horizon. Our Keith Andrews, Happy New Year, my friend. Good to have you back on in 2018.
Happy New Year to you and everybody listening in. It has been a, shall we say, roller coaster.
It has been. But, you know, with us being Canadian, and I know you're not much of a hockey fan, so I will take your enjoyment. We got to enjoy the gold medal that we just won tonight.
You know, much as I don't watch hockey, I am extremely proud of the kids for taking the gold. Yeah, I mean, I'm proud of the whole pile of them for getting there, but you know, the fact that the Canadians took it, much as I don't watch hockey myself, does not mean I don't appreciate people winning.
Well, it just seems to be a little bit more special when it's our boys. It's our game. So I have to, rub it in a little bit because I'm a diehard hockey fan. I've been going to the hockey rink literally since I was, in a bassinet, pretty much. Mom used to bring it, and, Dad would be playing hockey or coaching hockey, or we'd just go watch hockey. It's a Canadian thing to do, so that's what we did. And, watching my little guy tonight skate on the ice outside, nothing better. Outdoors, a hockey puck, hockey stick, me and the little guy cutting around the rink. Felt good, man. Felt really good.
Gee, Dave, I didn't ever peg you for a hockey fan. I mean, for pity's sakes. It's not, you never talk about it.
I know. I know, but you know what, Keith? It's good to have you back on in 2018, and, it's a time to reflect, refocus, and get everything back into the alien realm. So how have you been doing otherwise? Did you have a good holiday?
Yeah, quite frankly, the holiday ended the year with a heck of a positive bang, so I'm managing to get a lot of things out of the way. I mean, I think one of the biggest ones was it finally hit me as far as what Dad said regarding my memories when he told me on his deathbed that they were real, and then of course the way that finances and the material world around me has finally fallen into place. It has definitely started the year off on a running start. I'll actually be upgrading my computer, at least the display system, within the next couple of weeks. So I mean, everything's starting to move properly.
So I'm curious to get your opinion on something, Keith, because a couple of weeks ago, I had one of my strange dreams again.
Right.
And what happened was, it was like springtime, and I happened to be on the phone with the preacher, Eric Markham. And here I am on the phone, I'm kind of walking around, standing by about 20, 30 feet from my carport and just chatting about the show and normally like Eric and I do. And it was a blue sky out. There was one, those spring clouds that look like it's got rain in it, but it never seems to rain. And Keith, I'll get you to just keep quiet on your keyboard there for a sec.
Oh,
if you don't mind.
absolutely, sorry.
It comes right through. Anyways, so here I am chatting with Preacher, and right by this one cloud in the sky, there's a perfect, beautiful disc of a UFO. And I remember all of a sudden, dropping my phone in my excitement of seeing this craft. And this is all in my dream.
Right.
And the next thing I know, the craft is starting to fly towards the north from the east. And I thought to myself, I better go inside. I don't feel like getting taken. I have a feeling I'm going to get taken. Next thing I know, as I'm on the phone with the Preacher, I feel myself going up. I go above my patio, I go above my house, and I'm trying to push myself down because I'm like, no, I'm not going this time. And the next thing I know, I feel myself slammed, almost like back into my body, and my eyes awaken, and poof, I'm in my bed. And I don't know what happened. Have you ever had that happen?
Well, yeah, but for me, it was a long time ago. Basically, what you're talking about is there's no question from my end. They went to take you last night. But because of the adamant approach that you had and the mental acuity you had focused on the idea of not going, it creates a bit of a complication from their end because they're not trying to, they really aren't trying to hurt you. But with that kind of cross current, there's no doubt from my end they took you all the way on board ship because they couldn't turn you around halfway. They had to complete the transition and then immediately dumped you back in. Now, clearly they weren't too terribly worried about, shall we say, putting you back comfortably or subtly because it's like they just dropped you in. Mm-hmm. But that's because they'd have been in a hurry to do it before you disrupted the entire field that they work with. But it also means that they're getting ready to transition you from an abductee to a contactee. And this is what I mean by it. It happened to me a long time ago. But for you, by the look of it, and I'd lay odds it's going to be this spring, sometime late this spring, early this summer, that it's going to end up happening. That they'll complete the transition.
Oh, I don't know about that, man. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. Not sure.
But, in all fairness, Dave, no offense to you, but nobody is. Nobody is ever certain they're ready for it until it happens. And even then, there's quite often the question of whether or not they were really ready for it to start with. Okay.
When you go into an experience like that, though, Keith, how do you know if it's just a dream that's kind of freaky and edgy, or if it's a real situation?
Well, the good news there is I can give you this one from the annals of the professional psychologists and psychiatrists. When you're going through it, when you're going through it and when you're looking back on it, when you're recalling the experience, if the emotions go hand in hand with it, like appropriate emotions and appropriate, what's the word I'm looking for? Appropriate linguistics. In other words, when you're striving to discuss it, to describe it, you're using descriptors that are in your field of understanding. At that point, then it's a real event. Okay, like for instance, when it happened to me years ago. Okay, when I first saw a computer, I had no idea what a computer was, and what I described it as was a wall of lights with toggles and switches and dials on it that made a whole lot of ticking and whirring sounds. Now, for anybody that's been in the computer industry at all, a mainframe is like that. But at the time, I didn't know what a mainframe was. Okay, so when you're looking at it, and of course, the emotional disarray, or the emotional response to it, like if you take a look at what you were feeling, was it, if you will, normal from your standpoint? Like a normal response that is for you in character? That's the first thing you have to ask. And from that standpoint, that's how you tell, at least in your own head, there's no way you're going to prove it one way or the other, effectively speaking. Unless, of course, if you've got access to a medical lab and you can check for potassium crashing, then certainly that'll give you proof. But most people that I'm aware of don't have a potassium, don't have an actual lab aside from Preacher, in their back, in their kitchen, as it were.
This is true, and I understand this. One thing that I'm having, issues with trying to establish for myself, because I try and remain skeptical on this. Okay, I really try to remain skeptical. It's just, with me, it's happened so often that I don't know what is fact or what is fiction anymore. Now, a lot of people will say, "Oh, maybe Dave, you're going off your rocker a little bit. Maybe that.
Yep.
Maybe that's what happens." But I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Well, this won't make you feel any more comfortable, but I question the same thing consistently. And and I don't mean if you're going off your nut, but if I did. And the way I work around it is, when something happens frequently enough, whether it makes any sense or not, I like I grew up watching Star Trek, and I love the way that Spock put it. When you eliminate all logical possibilities, whatever is left over, regardless of how illogical it may appear, is the answer. So remaining skeptical is absolutely imperative to getting ahead, to sorting it out. But the reality is, if it happens so frequently and it's consistent, well, that's what facts are based on, is internal consistency. Make sense?
Not really. Define some more, if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind at all, because no doubt with your background, you can understand it better than and no offense to them, but better than most of the audience. When you're trying to figure out if something is really happening or if it's just your imagination, look for anything, like try and derail it, try and prove that it's wrong. Okay, try and prove it's just your imagination. And what I mean by that is look for legitimate backing or legitimate evidence, if you will, that it didn't happen. Okay, now it's rather tricky to try and prove it didn't happen, except by the evidence around you. Now, let's face it, you woke up with a start. Okay, you've got a witness that watched your behavior when you got up. Now, talk to the witness that watched it. They had nothing to do with the dream, okay, but they saw your response to it. Now, the question you ask them is, was your response, the way you behaved, a rational response if the dream wasn't a dream? Now, of course, we do have the people listening in that are going to go, well, if you believe it's even if it's a dream, if you believe it, you're still going to behave in the same fashion. And ultimately they are correct, and this is why it boils down to look at all of the events you've gone through, and you'll find a consistent level in them, or a consistent event that you're constantly reacting to, or you're constantly responding to. You can, in a way, and I do not say this to lessen the impact of it for anybody else, in a way, what you're going through is a very mild form of PTSD. You're having an event repeating itself that doesn't make any sense, that you're reacting to in a way that fits the event, but doesn't necessarily fit modern life. Okay, you've been taught everything makes sense, only simply put, haven't been given the tools to understand what sense really is. Okay. So when you're looking at that particular dream, take a look at what you saw in the dream, what you remember. Now, if I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Dave, but you don't usually remember your dreams in detail.
No, I do not. I really don't. And I can fully admit that. I don't know why. I mean, other people can remember their dreams that are very, very vivid. Other people can remember their dreams, half the time. I really do not remember my dreams unless it's some sort of profound event.
And right there, especially, and this is for the listeners as well, right there is for you, unless it's a prophetic or a pronounced event, something that happened. Very seldom do you ever remember a dream that has anything to do with you're not going to remember a dream about, eating an ice. Okay. But a near abduction where you're fighting for you're struggling for your freedom, and to have it culminate in a physical reaction where you get dropped on the bed and then you go rushing around trying to figure it out and talking to the witness involved. It kind of points in the direction of a real thing. And, the best way I can put it, and I'm not going to go into a long, detailed explanation, but I sat down with an individual one day and laid out my memories and the way my mind was working. And I told the individual, I don't need you to prove whether it's right or wrong or tell me whether or not I'm nuts. What I need to know is how to deal with this evidence based on the evidence being true in my mind. Their response was very simple, and I do encourage you to take this one to heart, Dave. Treat the event as though it is actually really happening. Okay, behave as though it really did occur as a physical, live, interactive event. But keep your eyes open for
Keith, I'm going to have to...
one information that may derail the whole thing. Yeah.
Keith, I'm going to have to call you on a landline. You were breaking up very, very badly all of a sudden in the last couple of minutes.
Okay, no.
All right, so give me a minute here, and I'm going to call you right back here, Keith, on your phone line. So just bear with me.
Okay.
And our Keith Andrews is here tonight on Space Out Radio. He comes in the first Friday of every month. And we enjoy Keith when he comes on because it's always interesting, it's always entertaining, and you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes it seems, man, it's way far out there. Other times it seems bang on to the experiences that many of us are having on a daily and nightly basis, especially those who are experiencers of the UFO phenomenon. And it's one of those things, man, and women, that if you've never experienced it, he sounds very far-fetched. He sounds very off the wall. But you cannot judge that if you haven't had your own experiences. Some of you will say, well, yes, I can. But can you? Keith, are you back?
I am back.
All right.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Well, aside from screwing electronics up royally today, not bad.
Well, this sounds mildly better. We can at least get your voice in there and see where everything goes. So when it comes to experiences people are having, Keith, whether it's in dream state, whether it's in the physical realm, there's still a lot of people, as you were just explaining, if we could reverse this for a little bit, as to how you could tell whether or not the event is actually happening.
Yes. And the easiest way to look at it, the way it was put to me, was treat the event, because you don't have proof one way or the other, treat the event as though it is physically happening to you in the current world. Okay, treat it, behave in your own head at least, as though it is a real event. However, keep your eyes open, keep looking for that one piece of evidence that may derail it all. It may or may not exist, but that's the best way to keep focused on reality, if you will, and still, as you keep trying to do, how's that working for you? Maintain a skeptical approach. Okay, I still question the events that happen to me on a regular basis. And especially for people such as yourself, Dave, that are, if you will, new to this particular level of interaction, it can be extremely it can be extremely disconcerting. That's the easiest way to look at it, because, and I'll just reiterate for those that are joining us a little later in the show, when you're striving to understand if something is real, it really boils down to take a look at all the logical explanations you can come up with, all the physical evidence you can find, and eliminate everything that makes sense. In other words, if you can say, well, that doesn't fit the bill, or if you can say, no, that isn't that isn't something that is consistent with what I experienced, when you eliminate all logical possibilities, all logical explanations, whatever's left, regardless of how illogical it may seem, is the answer. Okay, understand, modern science didn't start out where we are. It started out with not having any clue about the way that the world works, about the way people work, and about space itself. So it only stands to reason that as we bridge out into that realm, that there is going to be misunderstandings and conjecture, and most people, not liking the idea of change, are going to fight the argument. They're going to fight the change, and you're going to end up getting called all sorts of neat little names. Sadly, even amongst people in the UFO community, you're going to find people that are saying, no, you're just completely out of your mind. You're just looking for attention. So, I mean, there's a lot of different changes that are taking place from that end, that you sort of have to deal with. If that makes any sense to you.
There is a big debate going on right now within the UFO community, and I'm not sure whether or not you have been able to follow it or not. Okay, but there's a big debate right now in whether or not disclosure happened last month with the release of the New York Times article by Mr. Blumenthal and Mrs. Kane. And I know there's been heated arguments around here in regards to it. I call it a soft disclosure. I don't think they went far enough, but you know what? It's a start. It's a transition into the right direction. When you heard the news of this happening, what were your first thoughts?
Well, let's be clear on one thing. That particular article I haven't actually read. I didn't actually hear it, but I do know the whole gist of the thing. And number one, I do agree with you, Dave. It didn't go far enough, but at the same time, you don't really want to kick the door off the hinge, because had they done a hard disclosure the way many people figure it should happen, you'd have had panic from one end of the world to the other. Okay, so not doing a hard disclosure is probably a good move. I do believe that they have started to finally open doors, and start telling people, yeah, by the way, we really are not alone. Now, some of the conclusions that people are coming to are, I think the polite way to put it is questionable, but does it feel as though they did open the door to start the disclosure procedures? The answer is yes. Okay, I do feel they did, but they certainly didn't go as far as they could have. And of course, we have to remember that on top of the populace being afraid of this information on the whole, so are the governments. We must remember that before everything else, governments are people. They are family people. They have friends. They have a normal perception of life. So having this kind of information opened up to the public is going to rattle even the strongest of them to a degree. Okay, that's the reality of it. But was it coming? Certainly. Could it have been done in a different fashion? Absolutely. But they had to start somewhere, as you pointed out.
No, I get that, and it had to start somewhere. And I think we can all agree that when UFOs finally makes the front page of the New York Times, as Elizabeth Anglin so debated me, whether or not it's full disclosure or not, that's a big story. That's a great start, and at least somebody taking the story seriously for once.
Well, exactly. And getting it into the public. I mean, there's all sorts of, like, I'm noticing this one comment by Dawn in the chat room. Why would there be panic worldwide when other countries have already opened files? Well, the fact of the matter is, every country seems to be opening files piece at a time. But if they were to come out and just automatically go, here's the absolute proof, here are the off-worlders, well, let's face it, people panic on strange things, and it's, the best way I ever heard it put was sometimes not knowing. It's one thing to be interested in UFOs and to find it a fascinating subject. It's another to be staring down the front end of a UFO in person. I mean, even if we take a look at a simple example, look at the amount of research you did, Dave, or the amount that you were looking at and the excitement and what have you, and just that one event when Carl showed up on your doorstep, right? And look how that rattled you, and that was a pretty mild one. And I'm not talking about rattled you as in scared you, but let's face it, it's a little weird having somebody look through your door.
Eric has a comment in the chat room. He says, I think that is going to get away from them in regards to disclosure, releasing a little bit at a time. He says the trickle of information is going to become a burst dam. Do you agree with that theory?
Absolutely. And the speculation, because they're only doing it trickle at a time, the speculation that's going to precede the actual disclosure is going to go into borderline lunacy, because they're going to give bits and pieces, and people are going to naturally try and fill in the blanks without any background and no foundation. The reality behind it is he is absolutely right. It will get away from people, and again, I'm going to encourage people to certainly listen, certainly watch, but look at the evidence itself. Look at the things that are being claimed, and ask yourself on all fronts: is it actually going to make? Is it actually going to? Does it actually make sense? That's what I'm trying to say. Like I've heard all sorts of claims about what if we go back 50 years or close to 100 now, we go back and people are claiming what the governments had access to then. What they're making claims of doesn't add up because the outcomes don't fit the descriptions. So when you're hearing these things being laid out, when you're hearing these disclosure files being opened, question, first of all, whether or not they make sense. You don't have to understand the technology to know whether it makes any practical, whether it functions. And, here's where it gets complicated. The more intricate the person's mind that's listening, the more difficult it could be trying to sort it out, because many people that are of high intellect have a tendency of overanalyzing, whereas people that are sitting in the average bill tend to accept it as possible a lot more quickly, making it easier to adapt, which is really kind of an oxymoron in some ways. But does it feel like it's likely to get away? The answer is definitively yeah. Hopefully, with shows like yours, we can avoid a lot of the, shall we say, congruent confusion. But that remains to be seen.
Joe brings up a very good point, though. He says they did release the info, the government, that is, and no one cared. The world didn't freak. Do you think that's because, and I think that's a solid comment and assumption by Joe that the world didn't freak, but let's face it, the majority of the population, when you get a one-off story like this, there's not enough to go on. But if they continue releasing information and make it more frequent, that's where troubles may happen. Right now, I think so many people are so, polarized by other things in their life, I don't think they really noticed. I really don't think they noticed.
And most people don't. But then again, if you think about, let's take something a little bit closer to home. You take a look at people living on the coast. Most people won't notice the water all of a sudden start to recede when it's not supposed to be low. Okay, it just edges away, and people don't pay attention to it. But I'll tell you, they pay one very big point of attention when that wave comes back in. They usually refer to that as a tidal wave or a hurricane. Mm-hmm. They don't notice the little changes. People don't notice the birds all of a sudden taking off the ground, but they certainly notice the 5.6 earthquake. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have the same complication happen with these bits and pieces, that little bits and pieces are being released. The tiny bits are being shown to the public, but people are overlooking them for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Shar has a question. She is saying, I think the real question is, why now? I don't think they have a choice. They must disclose. What are your thoughts, Keith?
Well, my first question would be, why not? But a lot of the reason is because the generation coming up is tapped completely into the computer system. And if the government doesn't disclose it, then somebody is going to hack their system and disclose it for them. Okay, it's just that simple. So they have a choice. Either put it out there or let it get put out. Your call. And I think that's what it basically boils down to. It's sort of an issue of, because I do agree with you, what choice do they really have? Well, none. The only way they could have avoided it, and it would have, sooner or later, it had to happen. There's an old saying that goes, the only way a secret can be kept between two people is if one of them is dead. Okay? And that's just the same applies to this. The only way they were going to keep it a complete secret would have been to not tell anybody. Okay, and clearly that wasn't going to work. So, and of course, we have the other little problem. The other countries are already starting to open files. What other option was left? Okay, because much of the United States, and I suspect Canada, are sitting there going, well, we're not going to disclose and tell anybody anything. You either admit that the information is there, or everybody thinks you're a lot further behind the eight ball than what you'd like other people to think. Now, of course, the difference there is Canadians on the whole look at you and go, so what? But, I know that's the way I usually go.
I get that. I get that, but the timing was odd. I mean, it came literally within a week to 10 days after Donald Trump announced new plans to rebuild NASA and get rockets back to the moon, and people back on the moon. Then 10 days later, disclosure happens. A week and a half later, it's Christmas, or 2 weeks later, it's Christmas. It's just an odd time of the year for this to happen.
Well, I question this issue that they use of we want to get people back to the moon. It's kind of like saying, hey, Dave, you should go back to the grocery store. It's not like it stopped, But, yeah, it really boils down to, you got to remember, Trump is a businessman. Okay, never mind his personality and all the quips and comments that can come up around it. The man is a businessman. And let's face it, space exploration is good business. Well, how better to get funding than to release documents saying they're really out there? The fact that documents have been there forever, is beside the point. Okay, but realistically, if you're trying to revitalize the spaces, the space exploration side of things, what better way than to say, hey, by the way, we have visitors already coming. We need to get out there and find out how to deal with it. Because mankind, much as it's great at doing reverse engineering, is certainly not up to the speed that the off-worlders are. If they were up to that speed, we wouldn't be questioning whether there were people out there.
Well, as someone who wants the fact of real disclosure to happen, one of the issues that I have is there are so many stories that they could have gone with to confirm everything. I don't care about a UFO story in 2004 involving a couple of fighter jets on the USS Nimitz. Come out and tell me about what really happened at Roswell and San Augustine. Come out and tell me what really happened at Kecksburg or Shag Harbor. You know what I'm saying, Keith? When Ben Rich in 1992 stated from Lockheed Skunk Works that they were 50 to 80 years ahead technology-wise, what everybody else had seen, why not come out and confirm that there is this future technology? There's so many things they could be doing, but to give us a gray video that looks like a blob squatch in the forest somewhere that some Sasquatch hunter got, saying it's a UFO, I have difficulty with that.
Oh, and I agree 100% with you on that one. This issue that they're talking still in vagaries and in ambiguities is, in my personal opinion, and people can agree or disagree as they like, that is appalling reporting. That is an appalling display and an extreme insult to the general populace. If you're going to claim that you're going to disclose, then give something something clear, something that adds up. Like this idea of claiming to have this technology. Now, intriguingly enough, I know full well they've got some technology, but it frankly doesn't work the way they claim that they think. Now, do I agree that they are 150 years ahead of that? Absolutely. The problem is they don't know how to run what they bought. They're looking at gravity backwards. They've got their whole issue to a lady that happens to have a master's in astrophysics. And I got talking to her, and what I was talking to her about, as a recent master's attainer, they didn't cover it in the studies, which tells me that whatever they're teaching, they don't understand as much as they claim to. So, but, if you're going to say I'm going to disclose and here's a video, then for pity's sakes, make it a real one. Make it something that you can look at and nobody's going to question. Of course, we have to understand the other problem. Crystal clear, and with today's ability at makeup, most people are going to look at it and go, well, that came straight out of Hollywood. So, I mean, you're looking at a catch-22 almost.
Dennis,
that's where a lot of the...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Dennis was saying, I have heard nothing from anyone who is in consciousness contact, are in alien conversations, or others who are channeling. So what gives with that? Why haven't the people who are connected, helped confirm this?
Well, here's the biggest problem. As far as I'm presuming he's referring to confirming the technologies and the pictures, or the racism, what have you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's pretty much what we're referring to.
Well, it's more in regards to people who claim they channel aliens and off-worlders from parallel being or parallel worlds. They've been pretty silent from the paranormal side in regards to the Pentagon release.
Yep. And the biggest problem you run into with the people that are, so to speak, channeling is most people will not, because they don't want to be thrown out in the middle of the public and be questioned and be ridiculed, have you, they keep their mouth shut even when they're questioning what a so-called prestigious group are saying, in this case, the governments. And I was at a loss for what the word was. They don't want to say, well, the government doesn't know what they're talking about, or the government shouldn't be hiding this, because they don't want to get ridiculed. They don't want to get, if you will, targeted. Myself, I just don't see the point in arguing in hiding the fact that I look at it much like you do and go, if you're going to claim you're going to disclose something, for pity's sakes, disclose something. Don't disclose something. Disclose the real thing. And, this is why I agree with your definition that it was a soft disclosure. But, I mean, if we go back only 2 years, I think now, they did. Essentially, the government gave a hard disclosure. They already had the Betty and Barney Hill thing where they said it's real. About 2 years ago, they opened another one around Tom Reed where they put up a monument for it. So, I mean, they've already gone, the United States has already gone out and said it's real. These things are here. So I find it kind of fascinating that there is still such confusion around, or such reluctance for that matter, around the idea of coming out and going, here's some real proof. Now, of course, there are things that you just can't flood the market with because it would cripple society overnight. But giving a clear picture of a gray is not going to, it wouldn't derail society. But if they open up all the doors, which is what people are talking about, them only giving a little bit, if they would actually open all the doors and say, here's all the hidden files, the chaos that would ensue, and there was a comment, well, nothing has happened yet. Well, that's very true. But if you all of a sudden release all of the classified information and all of the blueprints that are out there that we have for technologies that even the greatest minds haven't fully figured out, can you picture the mess that we'd have? Especially with regards to trying to hold society in a stable fashion.
Couple more questions.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely it does. A couple more questions from our audience. This one from Dennis. He is saying, as for those who are into consciousness training, does this affect them in any way? Example, Holly Marie, I can't really recall her last name. How would this affect her consciousness experiences, or anyone's?
Well, in the case of Holly Marie, I don't actually know who she is, but we'll just go with the... Oh, good. So I'm not completely lost. Well, maybe I am, and we both are. Anyway, No, the way that people with consciousness training come in, how that affects them is if they are taught by, and this is where it gets complicated, if they are taught by somebody that actually knows what they're doing, all it does is help them cope with new events as they come to light. Okay. It helps them understand or put context to what they're seeing because they're more aware of how their body is reacting to the information. The problem is when people get taught things like lucid dreaming, which means learning to control your dreams, the importance and the usefulness of dreams becomes totally it gets totally eliminated. Now, does consciousness training affect people's interaction on the world in the events? Not really. It may help them cope with it, but depending on how they're trained, it may completely confuse them because most of what they're taught, if they're not trained properly, then they're being trained to prepare for something that doesn't happen that way. Okay, and that will put them in worse shape than everything else.
Michael wants to know what your thoughts were of the F-18 video with the UFO on it that was released during the New York Times story. Do you believe it was real?
Quite frankly, by the feel of it, good, bad. Now, here's the catch. I'm not a video analyzer. Okay. I can tell you, by the way that the UFO responded, was it responding in a pattern that was congruent with actual UFO maneuverability? The answer is yes. Can I say for absolute certain particular video was accurate? Not a prayer. I don't have the qualifications to do so. But at least what was depicted was accurate.
There's a lot of former pilots, Keith, that are coming out saying that the video is fake. And there's some real untruths in there. I don't personally know. I've never been in a cockpit of an FA-18 Hornet or a Super Hornet.
I can honestly say I've been in the cockpit, but quite frankly, it was on the ground. Mm-hmm. And in all fairness, it wasn't the F-18. But anyway, I will quite readily take a pilot's statement that what they witnessed wasn't what was on that video. Okay, I got no problem with it because I don't have anything functional to be able to argue the point. Okay, and first rule of thumb, if you don't, and this applies to everybody, if you don't have the education or the background to be able to legitimately argue whether something's real or not, then frankly, don't argue it. Go with what you're feeling, go with what you're seeing. But that being said, I have no way of telling you that video, but I can tell you the way that UFOs work. And I can tell you that half the problem that humans have in trying to replicate them is they're reading gravity backwards. Which does cause all sorts of havoc.
So why the
debate? Does that make sense?
Why the debate with other pilots then, in your estimation? Because we have people such as John Lear, whose father invented the Learjet, coming out saying that's not true. There's other pilots saying that communication didn't seem proper or professional that would come in. A lot of people have questioned the graphics from the supposed head-up display what the camera was filming. There's a lot of different ideas that people have in regards to this. We got about 2.5 minutes left before we got to go to break, bud.
Okay. Well, the reason for the argument back and forth, for the discrepancy factors, would be very clearly because you're looking at two things. One, different people are going to look at it different ways. Much more importantly, only the pilot that was in the cockpit at the time of an event like that is going to have the definitive picture, and they're still going to be only able to filter it through their own understanding. So you're going to get all sorts of arguments. Now, as far as the HUD display goes, clearly, I'll take the word of somebody that's actually got the information, that's actually worked with these things, to know whether that's the way it's supposed to look. But if you don't have first-hand knowledge, you're going to argue the point. You know, a pilot of a commercial airline is not going to be able to argue effectively the cockpit of the HUD display on an F-18 because they're a different display. They're a different technology. They do similar things, but they're a very different layout. So you have to look at who it is that's doing the arguing to find out whether they've got a foundation to do it. I trust that makes sense.
I would be very interested in talking, and I haven't had the opportunity to do so, but I would be very interested in talking to a F-18 pilot to get their idea on it. You know, that's an idea.
That would be incredible. That would be an excellent idea. Good luck with that.
Well, we'll give it a try. What the hell? I'm pretty sure there's probably some sort of F-18 group on Facebook where we could, check out. Why not?
And that makes total sense. I'm sure you can find something online.
I'm going to go look for it. I'm brave. I'm going to go look for it. Why not? Why not?
Let's face it. You stuck your foot in your mouth on live radio. Why not?
It happens. We could all do that. I think it's a very respectful thing to do. Anyways, on that note, Keith, we're going to hop out for our first break of the night, so you hold on. Our Keith Andrews is here the first Friday of every month with the ET Connection. We talk everything alien, UFOs, disclosure, conspiratorial on the night. You're listening to Space Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back with more of the ET Connection right after this.
Hey, space travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at SpacedOutRadio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience. Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at SpacedOutRadio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at SpacedOutRadio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at SpacedOutRadio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At SpaceOutRadio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter the encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your Four Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our Advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, it's Spaced Out Saturday, so Joe Roop will be in the cabin for Saturday night. Elizabeth Anglin will be in on Sundays for Spaced Out Sundays Cosmic Passport. Both shows get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. I will exit after the show going this weekend up into the mountains to find my Zen and my Chi, but I'll be tuning in thanks to the signals up here. It's nice and clear and warm. It's above freezing today. 3 degrees above freezing. What the hell is going on? It's early January. It's supposed to be cold. Hopefully I'm not jinxing myself. Nonetheless, spacedoutradio.com is a place to be for the weekend crew when they come in tomorrow night. I will be back on Monday. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of the Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as well. We are also live on the Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Enantiodromia. Enantiodromia. Enantiodromia is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets your password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, you can follow us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter, at Space Out Radio. Thanks, God of Thunder, on Twitter. Appreciate that. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We'd appreciate you subscribing to that. We're also on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can shop at the Spaced Out Radio store, rock out to some Bumblefoot, read up on the encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO Seekers and Contact TV. And don't forget, we have our GoFundMe page going right now. GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. And that is for helping us build a brand new studio right here in Spaced Out Radio HQ. We are halfway to our goal. We would appreciate all of you coming on in to help us out. GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. Our Keith Andrews is back for the second hour of the ET Connection. It happens the first Friday of every month. Keith, welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me. Glad to be here.
We are talking disclosure tonight because of the news that broke last month, and this is the first time we've been able to chat with you about it. So I'm curious, Keith, overall, how do you feel about this? Like, do you feel that this was a victory for people who have been experienced in the past with either contact or abduction?
Well, I find it a little difficult to be called a victory personally, but given people's outlook, yeah, most people are going to see it that way. For the government to come out and say, even on, as you called it, a soft disclosure that, yeah, this really...
Okay,
that RB...
Keith, we're getting about every third word. We're getting about every 10th word of you right now. I don't know what's with I don't know what's with your Skype connection tonight, but we are suffering. Suffering, I say. I'm going to try you on your home line once again, okay?
Okie doke.
All right. We're going to try Keith on his home line. Don't know why it's just not working tonight, but it seems like it is. So we're going to actually just call Keith back here momentarily and get him back in on the pad. Sometimes, let's go with Ronald. Sometimes technology just doesn't want to work for us. You know what I'm saying? So let's try Keith on his cell phone here and see if we can get that going better. Because I think that's going to be a little bit more important, having some sort of clear channel to him. It works better that way.
Good morning.
Hey, Keith, there you are. There you are. I don't know, what's with your Skype connection tonight? I don't know.
I cannot give you an honest answer to that. I could say it's my fault, which it probably is. You know.
Yeah, well, we'll forgive it this time. We'll forgive it this time. But everything looks good on this end. So, you know, the main thing is, you know, when it comes to disclosure, you were talking about the fact that it is approximately, some sort of happiness for people who have had experience either by contact or abduction.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the reason I say I find it hard to call it a victory is because aside from having a major news outlet, a government come up and say, yes, these things really are happening, it really doesn't change what the people are going through. But I know it makes people feel a little bit more, shall we say, a little bit less nuts, knowing that it is really happening, knowing that this is not something that is just their mind playing absolute bizarre tricks on them. So is it a good thing if for no other reason that one aspect makes it a good thing? Because I know from my standpoint, when my father turned around and told me, he admitted on his deathbed that my memories and my experiences had all been real, I'll tell you, it made me feel a heck of a sight better. Didn't change what I'd gone through, but this kind of disclosure has got to have a benefit effect on people. Of course, it does have that other issue that some people say, well, other people will use that as a reason for doing strange things. They were doing that anyway. This won't change that effect much. But like I said, is it a good thing? In my opinion, yeah, it is.
Well, I think it's good for people because it gives them a validation. It gives them a victory that they have the ability, Keith, to finally tell a lot of people who were non-believers of their stories to say, see, I told you so. I told you there's something to this. Even though it's been reported, and there have been reports all over the world of this happening from other governments, there's still validation that people get. And I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I say forget all the socioeconomic impacts. That one aspect that helps the individual say, I really am not completely off my nut, thank heavens. Right? Or the people close to them going, oh my gosh, what you're saying is possible, has got to be a beneficial side effect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beneficial side effect, how, though?
Well, if you take people that are feeling completely off kilter, okay, I've been abducted, I don't know how to deal with it, only everybody I talk to says I'm nuts, right? I'm going to put it in personal terms, okay, because I spent the first 50 years of my life trying to convince my parents that I wasn't nuts, talking to psychiatrists and psychologists and counselors about what I'd gone through, with all of them, well, the majority of them telling me, no, that doesn't add up. There were 3 that told me otherwise. But you spend your whole life, or you spend however long from the time of an event to current, and all of a sudden you have a situation where the government comes out and says it really is happening to people. If they don't say it's happening to you specifically, but it's happening to people across the country. That gives the individual that has been trying to cope with it and fighting the idea of the possibility, if not probability, that their mind is gone. They no longer have that distraction. They can now focus on how to deal with the actual event. I mean, that's how it becomes beneficial.
Well, you know what? Yeah, and I can see that. Do you think, though, that people will take the fact that these experiencers, whom they know, aren't really BSing, or do you think this is going to change a lot of opinions? Because right now it's only one piece. Yes, it's getting a lot of gasoline, but it's only one piece of information right now.
Well, as you pointed out, one piece. isn't going to amount to a whole lot of impact. But the problem with releasing one piece is the government has turned around now and said, oh, by the way, people, we lied about this. And that's the way people are going to take it. We lied about this going on. And now the people, more so than ever before, are going to look at the government and go, how much else have you lied to us about? How much is really going on? So this is going to ramp up the speculation that has been going on all along. Okay, and that's going to cause all sorts of side effects that you can only begin to sort of imagine, if you will. Will it affect some people positively and others negatively? Absolutely. Some people, it won't make any difference to at all. Okay, but I know, like, again, for me personally, when my dad came out and told me that, I could have cared less what the rest of the world thought. I really had gotten used to people thinking I was off my nut. But for my father to finally turn around and go, oh, by the way, no, you're not, that made all the difference in the world to me with regards to focusing on what I came to do in the first place. You know, and it's going to have that kind of dramatic effect on some people. Other people, they're just going to totally ignore it. And, of course, there is the other side of this. Some people, you've been telling your friends or the people you think are your friend, this is really happening. And all along they've been able to say, no, it's not, you're nuts, but I like you because you're nuts. The moment it becomes real and the disclosure says, yes, this is really happening to people, some of these people that have been saying, well, you're nuts, but so what, we like you, all of a sudden you're not nuts and they won't be able to deal with it. So there will be a transition of social groups and so-called best friends. Some will go separate directions because of this piece of news. And that's no insult meant to anybody. It's just the way reality works. I trust that makes sense.
I get that. Do you think, though, that this is just a lead-on, though, with only the one piece of information that's out, just a lead-on or a tease by the government for the UFO community?
Quite frankly, it's a lot of the way that they did it was to keep the UFO community quiet. It's going to backfire, but that was one of their one idea from their end was if we give them a little, they'll quit yelling. Okay, what the government has overlooked is that the people that are in the UFO community are of an extreme curious nature. And you tell them one thing, they are going to grab onto it and they're going to shake it until they get the animal out the other end. Basically, they've given them a toehold. The UFO community is not going to quiet down. They're going to start screaming more than they ever did. Okay, but is it likely just a tease to keep them quiet? Yeah, quite frankly, a lot of it. And part of it makes sense, but it's gotten to a point where people have to, and again, understand that all people in the government are still people. People have to start looking at each other and going, okay, this is really happening. Yes, the government has now said it is really happening, even though they haven't disclosed everything that people think they should have. But they have disclosed enough to open the door.
What do you think What do you think of Andy's comment from Australia? He says this disclosure has nothing to do about the UFO community and its tiny numbers.
Well, number one, that seems, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, so do understand, Andy, this is not meant in any way as disrespect. But clearly, when you make an announcement about UFOs, you're going to be taking into consideration the UFO community. Second of all, those tiny numbers, from my last recollection and from my last endeavor into the research side of things, revealed that roughly 4 billion people believe in them. That's around half of the global population. So the tiny numbers are, I'm not sure, but I think a little overstated. Make sense?
I think it totally makes sense. I mean, it's just, I think what the UFO community is trying to do, and from talking to other people, is they are using the word UFO as unidentified flying object, or the U.S. government has come up with unidentified aerial phenomena or advanced aerial threat. One of the two. And what they aren't disclosing is whether or not the craft is alien. They're saying right now it's unidentified. That's why they're calling it an aerial threat. It could be one of theirs that they don't know about. Stationed at Area 51 or some other secret base. It could be a Russian plane. It could be a Chinese plane. Who knows? Rocket Man over in North Korea may have a secret plane that we don't know about. I highly doubt that because he can't barely afford food except for himself and his wife. But you never know. He likes to spend money on stupid things, like his haircuts. So, the whole point that
he doesn't spend any money on those.
No, he does them himself, actually, because he has a fear of barbers. But the whole point that I'm getting at is nobody is mentioning whether or not these are alien or not. It seems like we have created two different subjects on aliens and extraterrestrials being on one side of the ledger. We're not talking about those. And then there's the other side, which is the unidentified aerial threat or phenomenon, not unidentified flying objects anymore. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Absolutely. It's what's called hiding in plain view. Okay, they've taken the question, and this is a normal political and or news, reporting trick. You take a question, ignore the question, say something else that sounds trippy, and everybody runs with the thing. It's kind of, it's kind of weird to watch, but humans do it all the time, and for that matter, so does every other race. Well, I shouldn't say every. There are a couple that don't. But the point being that you're absolutely right. They've taken the question of UFO and they've moved it out of the equation, and most people have totally missed the boat that they moved it out of the equation. You ask about lemons, they're talking about socks. And and the majority of people seem to think that they're still talking about lemons. It's kind of fascinating to watch, and not unexpected by any means. But it go to show a couple things. First and foremost, people have to realize that if in today's world of technology and the world of the creative world that has, people are going to question any picture that shows up. They're going to question, when an individual shows up on the ground that looks alien, they're going to question whether that is simply an actor in makeup until the so-called alien does something that humans just can't do. Okay, like the moment you watch a human jump from the ground to the top of the third floor, we can safely say that's not done by a human. You watch a human outrun a car, it's no longer a human, because humans aren't built to do it. But what they've done is they've gone, okay, it's an unidentified aerial conveyance, or it's an unidentified aerial threat, or whatever. Everything that is unknown is seen as a threat. Okay. Man is going to try and kill them, and that boils back down to primeval times when man was living in caves.
Goddess Michelle on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio has a question. She goes, do you think people affected by alien abduction will get any money from the government for being made look so crazy? Or maybe the government knows about their experiences?
I'm sorry. No. Not a snowball's prayer. If you manage to get money out of the government for that, congratulations. And it doesn't matter what country you're from. I cannot see the government paying anybody for the government making you feel less than you are, or for other people making you feel less than you are because of what you've gone through. Heck, they won't give you money if you're legitimately having problems with a physical ailment that is visible right in front of them. So, mental hardship, they're certainly not inclined to make it to pay anybody. And if they do, well, first and foremost, congratulations. But I wouldn't be wasting my time trying to get money out of them.
Why not?
Why not?
If you found out the Canadian government knew that our Keith Andrews had been taken for 50 years, and they've known about it for 50 years, and did not disclose to you that they knew about this, why not go after them?
Well, there's two major factors. One, I already know they know, but much more importantly, let's just assume for half a minute that they're going to, that's the way it goes. I go after them, and they go, okay, we're going to give you X number of thousands of dollars. And we're going to take it out of what money? Oh, that's right. We're going to take it out of the tax money that you already gave us and that other people gave us.
So what?
Okay.
So what, Keith? They got to get the money from somewhere. The government gets sued all the time. That's, I mean, they got to give it to someone.
But I came to a conclusion a long time ago. Okay, first and foremost, the government knows a lot more than what it's saying, but much more importantly, money money would certainly alleviate some problems, but bearing in mind it has to come from the coffers that are built by taxes in the first place. You have to look at the other side. Let's say I go after that and go, yeah, give me the money that you owe me. Look at the cascade problem that is going to come from everybody else wanting the same thing. Okay, the money won't make up for the collapse of the country. And I will tell you this, if the government were to try and start paying everybody that has been through this any functional amount of money, all those neat little things like, oh, I don't know, your communication lines, the road, the infrastructures, the medical that is covered, all of those amenities, the government can no longer afford to pay. So all of a sudden, that little bit of money that I'm being handed, when you amplify it to its logical amplification levels, wipes out the civilization as we know it, and I just can't see money being worth that much to me.
I disagree with you. And you know what? And I mean that with all due respect. I disagree with you because I can tell you this. If I found out that the government knew that I had been taken and that I had been implanted, which I have been, I would have that would strike a nerve with me. That would strike a very strong nerve with me. And if I had the ability to do so, I would contact a lawyer and say, what do I do? Is there a possibility of a case here? Because
here's the problem. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and like you, I know full well they know. This is proven by the fact that people like the CIA show up on my doorstep. Okay. There's no question from my standpoint, they know. And even if they come out and say, we know, okay, and we have a way that the law says I should be paid. Okay, the best way for me to look at it is, quite frankly, yes, it was a problem. I went through all sorts of things. But we go back to when it started, and at the time it started, frankly, they did what they thought was right given the situation. This does not change the damage I've suffered. It doesn't change it at all. But I've got a very different, if you will, perspective on life. Does it bother me what I've been through? Certainly. Does it bother me what you've been through? Absolutely. But is it something that getting a little bit of money, would the money help? Certainly. But let's face it, I've seen battles where the fight is easy to prove. The right and wrong of it is very easy to prove. And the government takes a decade to pay back. Okay, to admit that it's their fault. Something difficult to prove, by the time you get it proved and ratified, it's not you that's going to get the money, it's your kids. Because you're going to be dead by the time they figure that they get around to paying it. Whether it's right or wrong.
They just gave, but Keith, they just gave a terrorist $10 million.
Oh, I understand that. They also give, people coming into this country free houses and jobs and cars, and the people that are starving to death and their own military that have fought to make the country what it is, they leave them starving on the streets. Okay, none of this makes any functional sense. Okay, I'm not saying it's right what they did there. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you right now, it's wrong what they did there. It just flat out is. But the sad reality of it is that the government, money for the ridicule, for the hardship that is caused by what we've gone through, yes, it would make things easier now. Absolutely it would. And I certainly wouldn't be turning it down. Okay. But the question that you're asking, or the question you seem to be asking, is would I go and start a lawsuit to try and get the money? And I can't see wasting the time, because I know the court is the road it goes down and the time it would take. I'd rather they just simply quit charging me tax, period, and then I'll be, if they would turn around and make the government, or make the tax laws just a 10% flat tax for everybody, or even 20%, but for everybody equally, that would solve a lot. That would be something that, to me, would be a better payment for me. But that's me personally.
Keith, going to that Pentagon video that was released in 2004 with the FA-18 Hornet, Jägermeister in Edmonton wants to know if you've had a chance to analyze it and what kind of craft you think it is.
Well, the sad part there is, no, I actually haven't seen the video at all. I've seen other videos, and in all fairness, maybe I have seen it, but the understanding I have from the people that I've talked to is the maneuverability of it is consistent with UFOs, with UFO maneuverability. Now, whether I couldn't analyze, I don't have the technology to effectively analyze any photograph. Okay, all I've got is my eyesight and my instincts. And so whether the actual video is real or not, I have no way of giving a functional answer to. But from everybody I've talked to, it does seem that the maneuverability level of it is right for a UFO, and based on the maneuverability that was described to me, would put it as a gray. Now, can I prove it one way or the other? Not a prayer.
The reason why I'm asking is if you go in the SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook, one of our listeners, Joe, who has really good hair, actually photographed over top of his house in California a UFO. And be damned if this UFO doesn't look exactly like the one that was in the video.
Take that now? Like on now?
Yes. I'm going to try
and
I'm going to try and grab this here because I want to show our Twitter crowd. But I mean, this to me is a little bit trippy because it does look like the one on the video. And Twitter crowd, I'd be curious to get your information or what you guys think of it as well, as I'm going to move it on over to you guys as well. You know,
well, I got a nice little piece for you here, and you know, Joe, definitely hats off to you. This gives me a whole lot more to work with. That's not gray. That is not a gray ship. That happens to be military. That's a surveillance vehicle. And it's coming straight out of Radio Command, which, by the way, happens to be right out of the consortium itself. In other words, whatever was going on, they were eavesdropping on whatever the Pentagon was up to at the time. And in all fairness, probably not doing that much in the way of subtleties. But that's not, when I say it's military, it is not a combat ship. Although I will tell you, every ship on the fleet is combat capable. But that one's a communication vessel. You know, which gives me so much more to work with. And from what especially with that, that would put its maneuverability way beyond, like, in one sense, the old Hawker Siddeley Harrier was capable of some of the maneuvers, but not the speed and intricacy of them. And for those that don't know the Hawker, it's a vertical takeoff and landing vehicle, which works out well. But yeah, that one is that's an interesting ship.
It is definitely, and it looks the same as the one on the video, at least to me. If you were watching the video, and you watch where the UAP or UFO, whatever you want to call it, bank to its left, it has almost the same type of dimensions as this one. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, you know, way to go, Joe. You know, like I said, hats off to Joe. That's a nice, and no doubt it was clearer for him to get than it was in the camera.
I would agree. I would totally agree. You know, I mean, it's very interesting, man. It's very interesting in regards to how close, you know, I'm not going to say they're exact, okay? I'm not going to say that. But it amazes me how close they are in looking like the exact same craft.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, that's why I was looking at that when you said, you know, that's the same ship. That tells me a lot more about it than what I already had. It's sad to say, needless to say, technology and I have argued for years. But this kind of thing, that's actually, especially being over the Pentagon. Now, the Pentagon, that flyby was in November, you said?
I'm going to have to find out from Joe when he looked at that.
No, I don't mean this one that Joe posted.
Oh,
the one
that video was in 2004, Keith.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, that absolutely, there's no doubt. Well, people keep asking, well, are they listening in? Well, yeah, clearly they are. Because, like I said, that's a communication line. That's a communication vessel. So whatever was being discussed at that point was being relayed directly. So they must have made whatever they were up to in the Pentagon on that particular day caught the off-worlders' attention in a big way, because Radio Command happens to be a smaller group, if you will, straight out of the consortium. So again, this neat little idea comes to mind about people, if we get invaded, mankind's going to defend itself, not a prayer. Because what that tells me is, I already knew anyway, but that's a blatant case of they've just downloaded everything that the Pentagon had. So anything the Pentagon was working on, there's no question these guys have it. Which kind of takes away the idea of surprise interventions. But bearing in mind the off-worlders aren't here to conquer the planet in the first place, we really don't have that much to worry about.
And I think that's part of the problem with this whole disclosure project right now, when you include Tom DeLonge in regards to it. And Trip in the Spreaker chat room, I'm going to ask you to go onto my Twitter and grab that photo so everyone can see in the Spreaker chat, if you don't mind. I appreciate when you do that. So if you could do that for me, I would be very, very appreciative. And that photo is from Joe in the Spreaker chat as well. So when it comes to the whole disclosure project, though, Keith, they are really trying, at least through Tom DeLonge's To the Stars Academy campaign, they are trying to provide the idea that all extraterrestrials are evil and maybe it's time to put nuclear weapons up in space. What's your opinion?
Well, my opinion is that would be I'm not debating whether they may be trying that, but putting nuclear weapons in space is tantamount to grabbing a kernel of corn and throwing it at the front end of a main battle tank. On Earth. Back in 1986, the off-worlders proved beyond a shadow of a doubt they can shut nuclear reactions down without even trying. That would be first and foremost. Second of all, the moment anybody starts talking about all aliens being evil and all aliens being here to conquer the Earth, frankly, I take what they say and kind of look at it and go, okay, well, that's got to be as dense as you can get. I'm hoping you can't get denser. Because it would be like saying every Canadian is laid back, or every American, it thinks they know it all. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody, but the reality is when we take a look at what Tom DeLonge is talking about, and you start looking at the issue of they're trying to say all aliens are evil. Well, if all aliens were evil, we wouldn't be debating whether or not they were here. They'd be on the ground, and they would be in your face saying you're doing things our way or we'll kill you, or they kill people first and then say it. Right. I look at that kind of an approach and go, well, you can't, how can anybody believe that that's even remotely possible, that they can all be evil? Yes, some aliens are evil. Some politicians are honest. It's about the same ratio, but, the sad reality is that if you're trying, if Tom DeLonge, in all fairness, and no offense to him, but he really isn't that special of a person. He's just another individual who happens to be he's a marketing genius. There's no question there. But quite frankly, for him to even relay the information that all aliens are evil is absolutely bizarre. You know, I have trouble wrapping my mind around any concept that all of anybody is one way, of any race is one way or another. You know, it's kind of like the big misconception, and I'm sure you'll get a kick out of this one, but all Canadians love hockey. I'm living proof that's not the case.
Well, we got drugs for that up here, buddy. We'll get you fixed. You have an illness, you have a sickness, and we got to cure that shit.
Yeah, it's been tried by better. You know. Hey, I got no problem with hockey. I figure as long as one team makes one more goal than the next, then somebody won. You know, but don't get me wrong. I understand the excitement of it. I understand the excitement that the Brits go through with soccer. You know,
I don't understand. That I don't understand.
Then you really will have trouble with cricket.
Well, cricket I don't understand either, but I would accept cricket over soccer. That's for sure.
That's only because they carry a big club.
And they shut down the game for tea time.
Well, that's important, you know. Yeah. But no, the sad reality when you start talking about trying to get an excuse to put nuclear weapons in outer space, they don't need an excuse. They've already got them there. That was done when the Star Wars program was put in place. I always got a kick out of it when the Star Wars program, back when Ronald Reagan was president, decided, when they put it up and everybody says, oh, it's to shoot out, high altitude missiles. And I'm looking at it going, but they're pointed into outer space. What are they doing? Aiming ahead of time by 6 months? So, I mean, they don't need an excuse to put military weaponry in outer space. They've already got it out there. But if you can keep people in the dark and keep people thinking that there's a problem, then the general populace, I did it, just to give you an idea, I did it one day in the park. Okay, we had a major event going on, and I stood looking at the sky. Now, there was nothing in the sky. Okay, literally, there wasn't even any clouds. And it didn't take more than 5, maybe 10 minutes of me just staring at the sky to have, 3-4 dozen people staring at the sky and pointing and talking amongst themselves. There was nothing up there. Okay, I did it to see how long it would take people to start staring at the sky. Wasn't very long. So, this is why I know it works well. You point people at something odd, and they will focus on that, like you pointed out with the change in the designation of UFOs. We're not talking about UFOs. We're going to talk about aerial threats. Okay, but what about the UFOs? And people have gone the route of looking at the aerial threat, and many of them have stopped asking about the UFOs, except for diehards. And that applies to about 90% of the people that are listening into SOR.
In return for the difference between aerial threats and UFOs, what do you think the biggest difference is between the two?
Terminology. Understand, an aerial threat or a UFO, if I don't know what a plane is, it can be a threat. And since it's a plane, it's aerial. It's an unidentified flying object that happens to have combat capability, or more to the point, that I feel may have combat capability. Well, if I don't know what the ship is in the first place, I'm not going to recognize a weapon anyway. Okay, so I'm not going to know if that's a weapon or if it's a communication line or if it just happens to have something to do with aerodynamics. Okay, or whatever. So whether they call it an aerial threat or a UFO, you still don't know what it is, and you still don't know whether it's alien or not. So they managed to bypass the question by adding another word or by adding another term. You know, and you know, I like the way Eric puts it. A preacher in the chat room, he goes, aerial threat predisposes that they think that it's unfriendly. Well, humans have a brilliant concept that if they don't know somebody, that person is unfriendly. You know, but again, that dates back to the caveman when everything was around them and trying to kill them. You know, so the only real functional difference is now what's happened by adding this new term is people are spending so much energy trying to separate the two that the question is still not being answered. Is that ship from off-world? Okay. And can I prove it one way or the other? No, not a snowball's prayer. Do I know they're from off-world? Yeah, many of them were. You know, I get a kick out of this. If ET was capable of stopping nuclear threats, why didn't they stop Rocket Man from his nuke testing? That's coming out of Paracy. And the reason of that is very simple. Understanding nuclear power is a necessary step to get to fusion power because it's the way humans learn. It's the way most races learn. That's why the testing was necessary. But you understand what I'm referring to as far as the difference between aerial threat and UFO. You know, ultimately, that's what we're looking at. Is it simply a way of, yes, it made the people that have been going through this sort of thing there for their whole lives or for the ones that are just recently going through it, you know, at least there's some government, local government agency now saying, hey, it is possible, which certainly makes people feel better. Do you understand the difference there, Dave?
I totally understand the difference in regards to it. And, you know, the idea of it, though, was, like you said, and I was fortunate enough during this whole disclosure project, I posted something about John Lear, and Robert Salas, Major Robert Salas, posted on my Facebook. Blew me away that he did. I didn't even know he followed my page. You know, but, you know, he is the gentleman who in the 60s and 70s watched UFOs shut down his nuclear missile silo base in North Dakota. And he's the one who came out about that. And so the fact that they're not stopping the threats, that's because they're not, that means nothing. You know, and that's not, no offense to Daryl's question. I think it's a good question. You know, but it means nothing. What they were showing when they were shutting down the nuclear weapons during that time was the fact that, hey, boys, if you want to play with the big kids on the block, you got to realize this primitive stuff doesn't work. We got it under control. So for Tom DeLonge to then say, we got to put nuclear weapons up in space to protect this planet because the aliens fear our weaponry, well, that's hogwash. They shut down silos. They shut down silos. Like, do you think we're that stupid? Apparently, he thinks a lot of people must be stupid because of the fact that he is saying it. And he thinks And he thinks people are just going to follow his every word to a T without doing any research.
Well, it is the one thing that Tom thinks that I do, sad to say, agree with a lot of the time. There are a staggering number of people that are dumber than a bag of hammers. You know, I mean, in my industry, I deal with a lot of them. You know, and the sad reality is you're absolutely right. The off-worlders are not going to care if you put nuclear weapons in outer space. As a matter of fact, they'd rather they were all in outer space because there'd be less chance of them damaging the planet. It won't do any damage to the off-worlders anyway, but at least it would cut down on the amount of damage you can do to the planet with them. You know, but you are right. For somebody to say that, you gotta wonder just exactly how they're thinking. You know.
I agree. We only got about a minute. We only got about a minute and a half before we go to break. But Joe makes a good comment here. He says UFO, alien threat, aerial threat, or surveillance drone. This crap flying over his house is freaking him out. Well, don't live don't live so close to a damn Air Force base, Joe. In the middle of nowhere. You live near Beale. There's stuff that goes on there, man. You know this. You got great pictures of the U-2. You know this.
Well, I can understand it freaking him out. So what you do is you take pictures and you examine them because, well, that's what they're doing. And do your best. Now, I understand getting freaked out about it. I mean, most people get freaked out about things that are that much beyond them. And that's no slight against Joe. I've seen people panic for less. So, and Joe's not panicking. And Joe, this is something you should keep in mind. It may be freaking you out, but your brain is still working in hyperdrive here because you're still able to sort through it. So, well done, and give yourself a pat on the back. You're doing better than a great number of people can do. Yeah. Joe, you don't have the guns to shoot them down.
No, I think he needs to use a pointing stick. Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on because we're going to step out for our final break of the night. Our Keith Andrews is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, hour number 3, right after this. And don't forget the thought of the Dave near the end of the show. We'll be right back with more Spaced Out Radio and the ET Connection with our Keith Andrews right after this.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
There's stories, then there's the truth. Do any of us really trust the news anymore? This is Jamie Sexton, owner of Rebel Planet News. The third Thursday of every month, I appear on SpacedOutRadio.com to bring you the truth you deserve, without mainstream media lies or alternative media fear-mongering. We'll get to the heart of the story and deliver the truth you are seeking. So come join us here for the Rebel Planet at SpacedOutRadio.com.
We're lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to SpacedOutRadio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4 Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the show, it's Spaced Out Saturdays with Joe Roop. We are also on Sundays having Elizabeth Anglin with Space Out Sundays, Cosmic Passport. They get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in, where are they? Newton, Georgia. Sorry about that, guys. We're also live on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as well. We're also live on the Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Enantiodromia. Enantiodromia is your password. Nobody knows what it means, but Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Enantiodromia. Seriously, what the hell is that? Now, if you want to follow us on social media, try us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, spacedoutradio.com. Make that youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month, rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. You can also watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and read up on the encounter online for all of your paranormal, strange, and odd news. We also have a GoFundMe account going. It's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. We have terrestrial radio stations right now wanting to pick us up. We need your help in raising some funds to rebuild our studio. Even if you share it, that's good enough for us. GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. We are halfway to our goal. Help us reach that second half. For the final time tonight, we introduce our Keith Andrews, our resident ET expert with the ET Connection. It happens the first Friday of every month. Keith, welcome back.
And thank you so much for having me, and welcome to all the listeners.
Mm-hmm. We always love having you here, buddy. You know that. I want to get into...
It's always quick.
I want to get into some talk about ETs, because I think you have a lot to add to this in regards to Tom DeLonge stating that all extraterrestrials that could be visiting this planet are of a malevolent nature. Yet, if we look at studies that have been done, like the free experiencers from Dr. Edgar Mitchell, and you know a number of people who were involved with that, the stats are saying that over 84% are having benevolent contact. So, what's the derivative here, in your opinion?
Well, you have to look at the people that are stating that they're all evil. First, let's look at the reality. If they were all evil, if they were all malevolent, never mind evil, if they were all of a negative nature, then first and foremost, nobody would be questioning whether or not UFOs existed. Because as a malevolent race, they would have already dropped onto the planet, shown their superiority, and taken the planet. Whether they killed everybody or whether they just occupied, that's open to conjecture. But being malevolent, there would be no question at all as to whether they're here, because they would rely on making everybody afraid of them to start with. Now, that said, with the 84% in that extensive study having positive or having benevolent experiences, it strictly belies the idea that they're all evil. Okay. The other thing to look at is, for the people that have had encounters, there's been a staggering number, even if we only take 0.5% of the reported ones and say those are legitimate, unidentified encounters. Whether they're sightings or face-to-face, doesn't matter. Even at that, there's a staggering number that are legitimate. And yet, I have yet to hear of any race, any unidentified flying object, open fire on the ground at anything. Even when they've been fired at, I have heard of very minimal issue of return fire even, and certainly not against unsuspecting people. So we have to look at the reality behind it of, call it malevolent, but like the question of, are UFOs real? Are aliens real? Where's the proof that they're malevolent? That they're all negative individuals. Okay, if they were malevolent, would they not have blown up the silos instead of just shutting them down? Because I'll tell you, that would have made a much bigger impact and a much bigger mess. So I take that and basically I disregard it because it doesn't add up. It was kind of like when I heard Stephen Hawking make the same claim that all off-worlders were evil individuals. Okay, it just doesn't add up. Like I said earlier, it's kind of like saying all of any one nationality is of a certain mindset. It doesn't work that way in today's world. Okay, so do I put any real weight to it? The answer is no. How to deal with it? Well, when somebody makes a comment like that, I basically ignore it. Because, and subsequently, when you've got an individual making that kind of a claim, right there I look at it and go, well, how much else are they completely off rocket or, off kilter on? Because in the issue of exosociology, you have to look at the reality. If you've already determined that everybody's evil, then everything that you determine from there is going to be skewed. And I know that Preacher will agree with this one, but if you go into researching something and you go in with the idea that it all goes in one direction, you're not going to be looking for the truth. You're going to be looking for corroboration of what you said. And that's just one of the biggest. I like Joe. Joe goes, maybe there are no reports of aliens shooting at the ground is because there were no survivors, which technically is possible, But you understand Eric, Preacher in Spreaker is saying it's called experimental bias, which quite frankly makes the rest of the information completely side-twisted. But that's what I do with that sort of a statement, because it skews everything after that. Which, by the way, means the rest of his claims you can pretty much look at and go, well, what else are you completely off kilter on? Now, is it technically possible that they could all be evil and we could all be misunderstanding it? Absolutely. Of course, it's also technically possible that when you walk out your front door, you may end up flying into orbit because all of a sudden, for you, gravity no longer matters. I'm thinking the odds are about the same. Does that make sense, there, Dave?
Absolutely. Let's get to some questions from our audience. This one coming from Claudia. Keith, have you ever heard from any of the aliens' new messages for mankind and what they see for the future?
Yeah. And it is one of the biggest, and it's not technically a new message. It boils down to this. Mankind knows that mankind has already proven that the attitude of humans has a direct effect on plant life, which, by the way, is the planet we're living on. And they they have made the same comment for decades, well, in fairness, centuries, but mankind has already proven this problem. It's time that mankind's leaders got off the table and decided to start acting on it, and that mankind's media started promoting what they know, what they've already proven themselves work. Okay. The biggest thing that the off-worlders keep saying is, in a blanket, it is time to protect the planet That's what you're here for. Okay, it is because, and like they've told me, mankind already knows its behavior is causing problems. Its behavior is amplifying the negative atmospheric and tectonic instabilities. Okay, mankind has already proven this beyond a shadow of a doubt to himself. It's time to stop being stupid and start acting on the issue of protecting the planet that you're living on. Okay, and of course, I keep getting told by humans that, well, one person can't change it. One person is exactly the key. If everybody starts working, you won't have the problem. But that's the big message that they've got, is it's time for mankind, since they've already proven it, to start, to end the conflict and protect the planet that they're on before it's too late. And right now, that is where mankind is standing, is on the brink of destroying itself. Only ironically, it won't be because of nuclear war. Okay, nuclear war is the least of mankind's concerns, because it's the tectonic instability and the atmospheric modifications that are taking place. And let's scrap the idea of this is all HAARP's doing. It's literally, and this is what the off-worlders keep saying, it's literally the way that mankind is thinking and interacting with each other that is causing the degradation of the planet's survival. And by the way, the Earth will survive it. Mankind, not so much.
All right, let's get to another question. This one comes from Michael, who is asking, what are the different species' agendas? Like, what are they doing here?
Well, we start with the Greys. They are pure scientists. On the whole, they are here to study the evolution of mankind. Okay, to watch mankind go from its current position, see where it takes itself, and on all levels. Everything from the sociological impacts to the way they handle environmental issues, right down to the subquantum levels on the impact of environment and of communication lines of the human cell structure. Techlex, which are the 3.5 to 4.5, or the 4.5 to 5.5 foot reptilians, raptor-like reptilians, originally came here to clear the planet of resources in order to protect their own planet, discovered that mankind was here and that mankind actually tasted good, and was going to take all of mankind with it, but they ended up with a civil war in their own people to stop that from happening. The Sirzavians, who have been in conflict with the Techlex for quite literally millennia, got wind of the Techlex impending arrival, got to Earth first, are now...
Well, I think Keith's phone just died. Let's call him back. What the hell? Let's call him back. Wonder if he ran out of battery juice. Or maybe the alien shut him down. You never know. Breaking down.
My call dropped.
Your call dropped. All right, you're on Techlex, my friend.
Yes. The Tech... Okay, we'll go back to the Techlex. Techlex came here to literally clear this planet of all of its minerals, all of its resources, to protect their own planet. Now, they found out when they got here, humans were here, and that humans tasted good, so they were going to take them with them. The Sirzavians turned around and they've been at war with the Techlex for millennia. Found out the Techlex were inbound, got here first, and are allies of mankind. Then we have the Pleiadians. Now, the Pleiadians are simply the intergalactic medical professionals. They simply are healers. And they are interested in the evolution of man. Man is a very primitive species, very combative. But the Pleiadians are interested in how they're going to evolve and what they're going to do with it. Nordics have been coming here for centuries. And much like the Greys, they are here, for the most part, to see how mankind evolves. But they do have a tendency of enjoying interacting with humans. And so they do have a tendency of coming here. You almost want to call it on vacation. Mobians, who are on a planet inside the solar system, but on the other side of the sun in the same orbit as Earth, well, since they originated on Earth, they keep coming back, quite frankly, as a vacation place. Since they look like humans, they're going to blend in anyway. And the Nordics look close enough to humans, to fit. So they can move about as they please. Okay. When you start taking a look at the fairy folk aren't, by definition, off-worlders. They're ancient races. They were here before man. So they've kind of got a better stake in it than mankind does. If we take a look at the Vulcans, which are a crystalline group they're from this solar system, they come here to nest. They literally come here to, shall we say, lay an egg, for lack of a better term, and then return home when they're ready. Okay, it's kind of like, if you will, the idea of the sea turtles and the salmon today on Earth. They come back to their nesting grounds. Works out kind of. John Teeter has asked a question: is there a difference in Spreaker? Is there a difference between the Zeta Reticulans and the Greys? Yeah, the spelling. They are literally the same peoples. There are, that I'm aware of, 15 different colors and skeletal configurations of the basic gray, of the scientists, and another 2 or 3 of the tall ones. Okay, but they're all grays. So, but these are a couple of the obvious races that we've got dealing. When you deal with the consortium, well, the Shadow Watchers, the Shadow Folk, are literally that. They are watchers. They are here to simply record what's going on. They're not here to interfere. They're not here to help or dissuade people. They are simply here to record what's going on. Okay. When we take a look at the Lyrans and the Lycans, well, frankly, some of them are actually trapped here, as in ship crash, they're still here. It's not so much what their agenda is, so much as they don't have a lot of options but to simply survive. Now, the Lyrans have been able to get back and forth. Some of the Lycans are, if you will, trapped. Okay, simply because they don't have the way to get home anymore. Okay. Now, so these are just a couple of the races that we're dealing with. When we start looking at some of the more esoteric ones, elementals, when they get here, their agenda is absolutely nothing to do with mankind. It has to do with they literally are responding to the different elements, and that's what they're here to deal with. I'm hoping this makes sense to people.
Oh, you're doing great. You're doing great, buddy. Keep it up.
Good. I'm just looking at some of the questions, because, like Chris has got, Keith, isn't it true that aliens do take on human form and live amongst us? If so, then all can be evil if they're living, interacting among us. I'm thinking can't be. Yes. The answer to that, Chris, is yes. Some aliens do their best to hide amongst people to interact. I ran into a Martokian years ago, And Martokians, for lack of a better way of putting it, are the green men from Mars. They're just not little. And they do their best to conceal themselves because mankind is so fear-based, they can't afford to come out and show themselves, without their own protection. Because it would create way too much of a sociological and socioeconomic disparity, that it would create more problems, and they're not supposed to be creating a problem. I'm not entirely certain how we're supposed to work with that one. Preacher in the Spreaker chat room says, "How do you keep your listeners in suspense?" I'm not sure how I should look at that, except for don't tell them anything, and they'll listen. Now, Robert White has asked, are there any species that are from the future? And the answer is definitively no. Primarily because you cannot travel back in time. Okay. Now, are there species that can look from the past, or from the future into the past? The answer is yes. And there are a few humans that can actually sense them. But can they interact? Can they cause any effect? The ones looking back from the past cannot turn around and interact with the humans that are here or with the people that are here to effect changes. Okay, it doesn't work that way. You can't go backwards in time. Okay, it's kind of like, are there other races from other dimensions? Well, no. But I suspect that the problem there is the definition. There are many races of different vibratory rates which seem to sink in and out of existence. Now, the whole issue that you have to look at where it comes to these different races is, you'll notice I haven't said any of them are on the whole trying to wipe out the planet. And the reason for that is quite simple. This planet has more information on it than any other planet in the area. It happens to be a phenomenal library of information. And that's why the consortium is in the neighborhood, is to ensure people leave it. Okay. Now, I'm going to sidetrack myself for a second. Corey in the Spreaker chat room, if you can get a line to me describing what, because I don't always know the same names that people use, what the Schwartians are, as in what they look like, or that side, I may know them by a different name. And therefore, I might be able to give you something to work with on that end. And I'll be more than happy to look into it for you. Now, Adam in the Spreaker chat room wants to know where gnomes are from. Well,
yeah, you don't have to get into that one, because he's just doing that to bug me.
Oh, I know he is, but the reason I was going to give an answer to it, actually, it actually has to do with the fact that they come from the same place as the fairy folk come. Many of the octopods don't come from here, but the fairy folk, what people call the dwarves, the leprechauns, many of these ancient races, gnomes grew up here. They're an offshoot of the dwarves. Okay. And yes, they really do have a staggering capacity for building. Okay. And yeah, I realize where he wants me to go with that, and I'm just not going there. The intriguing part about it is many of the races that people call mythological are not they are not so much a myth as not well known anymore. Okay. The part about it Yeah, Joe goes, maybe they're not evil, but no one likes someone that sneaks around at night kidnapping people. Absolutely agree.
Hold on. He totally would be in favor of it if it was his lustful Hollywood star, Jessica Alba. He would totally be in favor of it if it was her. He's talking out of both sides of his mouth here.
Oh, I see. It's selective, is it?
Yes. Joe has a giant crush on Jessica Alba. And I'm sure if she snuck into his room in the middle of the night to kidnap him, he would be all over that. All over it.
Well, in fairness, I can't exactly complain. You can't really fault him for his opinion on that. But we could get really, really sidetracked in certain ways. But the big thing to remember is a lot of these races have one thing in common. Okay, well, two. One is Earth. The other is that they all look at the planet as an information source. It's a place to go. Some come here, quite frankly, for vacation, okay, because they're allowed to, if they don't create a problem. So this neat little idea that people have that the races are here to wipe Earth out are completely off-kilter, because there's some phenomenal people, phenomenal races that do nothing but help people. And yes, there are definitely hybrids, and contrary to certain people's belief, not all hybrids know they're hybrids. Okay. Are there off-worlders that live amongst us, that hold down jobs, that have come to this planet and, if you will, are taking people's jobs? You can't take somebody's job if the person isn't willing to work it in the first place. Now, granted, that does make a great number of them illegal aliens. Well, they're actually legal aliens. They just haven't gotten their passports here. So, I mean, there's a lot of, when we take a look at another one of the very important races, you look at your wood nymphs, or your forest, the forest dwellers. There are staggering numbers of races that are on the planet that are looking out for the planet. Not the least of which, and this is actually an ancient race, and you and I have already agreed to disagree. And that being is a app called BUMBLEFOOT.
You're breaking up pretty, Keith. You're breaking up pretty bad again. Did you move?
No.
Oh, there you go. We got you back now. Okay. You were just about to talk about Bigfoot, which led to Michael's question as well.
Okay, and what do we got for Michael's question here?
What's Sasquatch?
What is Sasquatch?
In your opinion?
Gigantopithecus.
You don't believe they're an alien race?
Try that again?
Michael wants to know if you believe that they are an alien race.
No. That's about as succinct as I can get. They're one step prior to Neanderthal. And as for why they're still around, well, number one, they're not extinct. Much more importantly, it's because they figured out how to work with the planet instead of trying to control the planet. Neanderthal, on the other hand, didn't quite do that. So, from that standpoint, are they capable of apparently vanishing? Yes. But it is much more akin to extremely adept at camouflage and at, disappearing into the environment than it is to anything else. And again, are they, quite frankly, they are some of the gentlest people you'll run into, if you're ever lucky enough to actually run into them. But I will tell you, if you're looking to run into them, carrying a gun with you is not a good way to do it because they can smell the gunpowder, and that doesn't exactly bring all sorts of warm and fuzzy feelings to them. You know, but are they off-worlders? No. Were they accelerated by the ancient races? Yeah, very much. But then so was Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon. I mean, we can go all the way back down the entire genetic tree to see that going on. So all in all, you know, you're looking at a number of races on this planet that are quite literally here on from a beneficial standpoint, or at the very least, much as the Greys, from a neutral or research standpoint. You know, where they're simply here to take a look at things, to watch what's going on, and to work from there. You know, the thing that people have to realize is that when people don't know something, like when it's unfamiliar, people instinctively get edgy. Okay. You know, they instinctively become a little bit more agitated, a little bit more uncomfortable. And let's face it, that makes people somewhat unpredictable, which is one of the big reasons why the off-worlders and ancient races don't actually step out into the public view. You know, that's the important factor from that standpoint. Okay. Okay.
Let's get to Robert's question here. He's saying, are any of these species that are visiting us right now from the future?
No. The point being, you cannot travel backwards in time. Okay. Now, that said, there are some people that are alive today that can sense people from the future looking back, but messages and hints and directives or interaction cannot occur because the past is already written. So you cannot alter the past. You cannot affect the past. All you can do is study it to find out why it happened. Okay. So has anybody come from the past and is now back? The answer is no. Now, there are people that say that will tell you they come from the past. And here's the kicker. Some people, because of the way the multiverse works, somebody may have had a lifetime in a future, but like a future time, let's say from 2255, but it won't be the future of this Earth. Okay, it will be a different timeline where something else had happened to evolve it. And the reason for that is, again, because you cannot go back. So once you've existed in a given timeline, you can't go back further in that same timeline. It avoids a whole lot of problems. Okay. And again, it boils down to the same concept that you cannot unknow that which you know. Yeah. Gee, I wish you've heard the saying clearly of, if I knew now what I knew then. Well, granted, your life will be different, but you can't alter the fact that it isn't.
All right, let's
Does
get
that
to
make sense, Dave?
Absolutely. Let's get to Claudia's question here because she's been waiting a while. She is asking, can working with crystals using intention and thought help raise the consciousness? Do the aliens use this kind of method in raising their own consciousness?
And the answer to both of those questions is absolutely yes. First and foremost, crystals they hold an interesting energy pattern, and they do it better than the modern systems, the modern Terran systems. This said, you can store staggering amounts of energy and staggering amounts of information in a crystalline base. In addition to that, that is one of those issues that applies on a universal level. Every race that knows anything about crystals and about communicating with them can do the same thing, and often do. So, yeah, absolutely. And of course, it really does boil down to the intention behind what you're doing. So, for people that work with crystals, it quite literally is a legitimate, effective method. I've seen people use them for accelerating healing, for bringing clarity of thought, for eliminating illnesses, and of course, once you understand it, and this is where it gets to be a little confusing, once you understand the way the crystals work, you can attune any crystal to a given chakra and have that work towards helping balance that out. That's one of those neat little projects that I'm in the middle of trying to build. Of course, that's going to take me a while, that one in particular. But crystal, what they call crystal therapy, absolutely does work, and many of the off-world races do it. So I mean, from that standpoint, it really is, it is one of those fields that it would do well to look into. For anybody to look into.
All right, let's get to Robert's question. Has Dawn made any more appearances?
I haven't spoken to them in a while, but spoke to them last October or November, and he is still very much in contact with them back on the East Coast. I just haven't been out that way. But he is apparently still very much interacting with them on a pretty solid base. So specifically what he's up to, in all fairness, I don't have a lot to go on because I haven't been talking to them.
All right.
Yeah, I know that wasn't exactly informative.
Let's go to Dawn's question. She says, octopods, is that what the Octonauts drive? If you have kids, is it funny? I'm just kidding on that. And then go ahead.
Yeah, the odd answer to that is actually I do have kids, and yes, the one used to watch the octopods the Octonauts all the time. But no, I forget the name of the ship that they were using. But I don't believe it was called an octopod. So I guess from the other side, was it funny? Yeah, not bad.
All right, let's move on to Adam's question. It says, Dave, I joke with you all the time about gnomes, but at the same time, I do want to know things I don't quite understand. So how do you see a gnome?
Well, first of all, you got to understand that more often than not, you're going to have to be underground. They don't come out in daylight. Where it comes to humans, they are, quite frankly, more than just a little edgy. But let's understand, gnomes are not only 6 inches tall. Okay. Gnomes, the 3 foot mark. But they spend a lot, is known as, okay.
All right, Keith, we're only getting about every 12th word again from you, man. I don't know if you moved your head or not, but we're having a little bit of a rough connection with you right now in regards to it. I don't know if you're still there or not. Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Good. Then we can continue on. It just works that easy. So you were talking about the gnomes.
Yeah. Gnomes are they're a native rookster. Okay.
We can't hear you again, my friend. I don't know what's going on with your phone line there. I'm going to give you a phone call right back here. So just bear with me here because we want to try and get a cleaner line. We're going to get Keith back on the line here. I don't know why we're having so much phone trouble with him tonight. Maybe he has gnomes. This is what happens, Adam, when we talk gnomes. You keep on bringing up the damn gnomes, and all of a sudden the phone lines start being tampered with. I'm blaming you for this one, Adam. Blaming you for this one. Shame on you. Shame on you. You know I'm just teasing, my friend. No, okay, we got you back. I'm getting harassed by garden gnomes now. Thanks, Mike, on Twitter at hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Really appreciate it. Gee whiz. Gee whiz. All right. Let's move on from the gnomes thing, because every time we talk gnomes, you get cut out. Let's get to Everett's question. He says, assuming that there are malevolent and benevolent races visiting this planet, why doesn't a malevolent race cause the exposure of a benevolent race, thus causing disclosure and possible societal collapse? All right. We're down to about 4 minutes here, Keith, and I want to get in a few more questions. Claudia is asking, what alien race worked with the Egyptians?
Here anymore. Not for the most part. I'm just trying to remember where the heck they were from, because they were essentially conquerors. Okay, but they weren't trying to conquer the planet. They simply wanted to control what was going on. You know, the Quattle have the Aztecs, but I can't offhand remember what race the Egyptians, what their actual home race was. But there weren't as many of them here as what people think. You know, and no, not every pharaoh was a god. You know, wish I could give you more clarity on that one, but now I'm going to have to go back and find out.
Damn gnomes, man. It does. You know, and I want to apologize to our audience and for Everett's question, because my studio button here got stuck and I thought it had released so we could hear you on the air after we got back on the air. And then apparently it decided to turn itself off again. So, oh man. I guess it's just one of those nights, Keith. One of those nights. Why not end the night on one of those types of situations?
Yeah, we might just well have a weird start. I mean, it's been a weird day anyway.
I know. It's one of those. It's one of those, man. One of those. We got about a minute left with you, Keith. And, I want to say it's great to have you back on for 2018. We look forward to the next time that you are on, my friend. If people want to learn more about you, your research, and what you're all about, where can everybody go?
Well, the easiest place, finding me on Facebook under either Ronald Keith Andrews or Inner Voice Enterprises. In either event, you'll find a hand-carved wooden UFO. You can look at my YouTube channel, which is R. Keith Andrews, and where I am doing videos now. And, of course, I'm working on websites and what have you, but I'm pretty certain if you ask Dave how to get a hold of me, you can certainly contact me at Inner Voice Enterprises at yahoo.ca, or on Skype, at Inner Voice 111. I do have a tendency of responding as fast as I can, so bear with me on that. Just let me know where you're coming from so I actually know who you are. Would be really appreciated.
Right.
But those are the you can find me.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. Thought of the Dave coming up right after this. Tonight's Thought of the Dave comes on in. We need a sponsor for this one. Little cuterebra for Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL. The Thought of the Dave is a daily question that I now ask on my Facebook page. It also transfers over to Twitter in regards to any topic whatsoever. So, today's Thought of the Dave goes like this. 3 weeks ago, the New York Times released a front-page UFO story detailing the U.S. government's involvement with studying this phenomenon. Do you think this soft disclosure did anything to make believers out of the skeptics and the mainstream people who never believed in UFOs or aliens before? So, let's get to your answers tonight. And Keith, you can join on in if you want, instead of just hanging out. Up to you.
Well, from my standpoint, not really. Everything as far as the announcement went, has not, in my opinion, appreciably changed the impact, changed people's outlook. It seems to be just another person's point of view, if you will, is pretty much the way people seem to be taking it. Was it a good idea to do it? The answer is yes, but did it have as big an effect as people think or would like to think? Not from what I've noticed. Of course, I can flip that around and put it back in your lap and go, from your perspective, have you noticed any real functional change?
I have not. And, I don't think mainstream people have really paid attention to the story. I think that for the most part, they've glanced over it. Now, if there was follow-up pieces, instead of having to wait however long we have to wait until the next piece of information comes out, I think it would have more impact. But as of right now, I don't see it having any impact whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? So, let's get to...
I absolutely agree.
Let's get to some audience comments here. Tessa says, I believe it has made a small percentage of people more open-minded to the concept of extraterrestrial life. For the most part, people are so close-minded that they won't even believe there is intelligence beyond our own until it is staring them in the face. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I think that's a great comment right there. I mean, I had this argument a couple of months ago with a member of the local church. They're all evil. They're demons from the devil. And then we had to get into the whole Alpha Omega debate. So we go from there. Diane states, she says, I think it's just validated for a lot of people that governments will go out of their way to lie. I think that's a very poignant point. Don't you, Keith?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking that they don't really go that far out of their way. But I do agree with her.
Devin made the comment, I think it's a little crying wolf for people now, and it's causing more people to awaken to the fact that they cannot trust the government more than awakening them to the fact UFOs or ETs exist. Now, I agree with this one about 50%. I think, there are a few people crying wolf in this field. But outside of this field, I don't know how many people are truly, really, Keith, paying attention. I think they just think, well, that's kind of a cool story. Yeah, I kind of believe in UFOs. But it hasn't had the hammer impact that we've been waiting for through the news. You know what I'm saying?
I absolutely agree. Because of the way they've done it, it's like you said there, it's kind of like watching paint dry. You're not going to notice it en route. And for the most part, people are just flat out ignoring it. It would have been nice if they'd have done something a little bit more poignant, but not expected.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, let's get to Jan's comment here. He says, the New York Times running with the story has the debunkers back on their heels. Yes, it does. And I think that's the validation that a lot of experiencers were looking for. And I think it's fantastic. I really do.
Well, yeah. I mean, it certainly has taken the debunkers and shoved them back. They have no choice now, no functional choice, but to question the veracity of what they've been looking at. Of course, in all fairness, debunkers are still going to look at that and go, well, that's just government telling another lie, so you can't believe that anyway.
Let's get to another comment here. This one comes from Andrew, Aussie Andy, as he is known in the chat rooms. He says, this is just the first shot. So much more to come. Sadly, it was not news in Australia. And that's the whole point. We need more news when it comes to this. We need more people to jump on board. One little minuscule video saying that with the Pentagon saying, yeah, that could be a UFO, that's not going to cut it. There needs to be more hardcore information. And the final comment tonight comes from Dennis up in Edmonton. He says, I believe most skeptics and the mainstream disbelievers ignored it as they maintain real life is their priority. There are those who may be more open to at least listening now. Finally, there are those who believe, then discarded after the Pentagon took back their claim in favor of concentrating on the security aspect of the program. Lots of different lines in this one, my friend. Lots of different lines and webs that are going to be spun. R. Keith Andrews, thank you for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great experience aside from our technological hiccup.
Oh, okay. Well, let me just put you on hold, my friend. And I'm going to wrap this thing up. We want to say thank you to everybody who took part in today's Thought of the Day. That'll be back on Monday with a new question, new topic. Might have something to do with cryptids. We'll just see. Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Space Out Radio. He rocks us in and out of every single show. I want to say thanks, John Tenney, for finally following me on Twitter. You made my 2018, and I know this is the year you'll stop using Twitter now because of it. I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much to everybody in the realm of Twitter and social media. You guys have been fantastic. This weekend, starting tomorrow night, Joe Roop is in with Spaced Out Saturdays. Then Elizabeth Anglin's Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Sundays. Both shows get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We also want to say thank you to all of you for hanging out with me this week. You got to keep it up, keep it going. Don't forget about our GoFundMe account. GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. Want to say thank you to everybody in Twitter, everybody listening at home. in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. In the SOR Space Travelers group, we got the veterans in there, and on Spreaker for chatting the night away. Over 1,500 messages tonight. That's fantastic. Good job, guys. Love you doing what you're doing. Keep it up, and we'll do it all again on Monday, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend. I'm heading out into the snow to find my Zen and my Chi. I'll be back Monday. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. Peace. I'm out. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us home.